Hi everyone, welcome. This is Intuitive Edge, where we take an intuitive look at what's going on in our world. I'm your host, and I'm here to help people understand the energies that are affecting their everyday lives. If you're drawn to this, feel free to take what resonates and leave the rest. By now, most of you have probably heard about the tragic passing of UFO researcher extraordinaire David Wilcock. He had quite a following, and a lot of people loved him dearly. He was very well known in the alien circle, UFO connections, also talking a lot about consciousness, and there was so much to what he had to offer. He'd written many books and had a podcast, and people are understandably reeling in the wake of his death. And his death was ruled an apparent suicide, and people are wondering about that because he was so out there and so prolific, and it always is a tragedy when someone takes their own life, but it seems even more so when they're a beloved member of the community, they have a big following, and it seems to affect a lot more people than just his immediate family, friends, but also his extended family and friends on YouTube and from his website and his podcast and all of that. So I do want to take a look at this. I did write something down the other day. I'm going to grab my notes. Back on April the 14th, I had a knowing come in, and I was sitting in my living room, and I told my husband, please write this down. And it says prediction. And the prediction I was feeling, this was written on April 14th of 2026. And it says, quote, someone famous is going to pass away. There may be something mysterious about how they die. I had that sense, that knowing coming in, and a couple days later, there was a famous person connected to baseball, a famous player that passed away, and I thought, well, maybe it was that. Didn't know much about that. So I thought, well, maybe it's something there. But then the news about David Wilcock came a few days later, and it wasn't until a few days after that that I remembered, oh yeah, I wonder if this has something to do with David Wilcock's passing. And the fact it mentioned something mysterious about how they die. I'm going to do this in the most compassionate and gracious way possible to be honoring of David and his life and his legacy and his family and all of that. Also, I personally don't like to try to do any connecting with folks on the other side until at least 3 days after they've passed. There's something about the 3-day mark. Other spiritualists, other mediums may want to chime in on that if you know something about the 3-day mark. But for me, I just know it's very sacred, and there's a lot to that 3-day. A lot of cultures do not bury within the first 3 days. You don't speak of their name or anything within the first 3 days. There are certain cultures around that 3-day mark after someone passes. And I think it's believed that this is a very, it gives the soul a chance to orient itself, and sometimes death can be sudden, it can be unexpected, there can be a lot of trauma around it. So it gives the soul some time to process what has happened to them. And I've also noticed too that I've had 2 notable deaths, people in my life that have passed, and on the 3rd day they come and visit me. So I've noticed that there's a 3-day mark too. So thank you for being on this journey with me. I do want to take a look at the circumstances around his passing, because it does seem very odd that somebody of his prominence, of his caliber, would end their own life. I mean, it does happen. And if that was the case, that makes this doubly sad. But there are people that are questioning it, and I want to validate those questions because I have those questions too. So I'm going to grab some cards and pull into some energies and we can go on this journey together and see what the cards say. And so thank you for being on this with me. Let's get into that. I'm going to shuffle up here and just talk about what happened, the circumstances around his tragic passing. Is there anything that we need to know about what happened? Was it a suicide? Was there something else going on that we need to know? I'm just going to do a 10 card, throw 10 cards out, see what we get. If there is any messages that need to come through about what we can glean from what happened, to maybe kind of put some of our questions to rest, or maybe help clarify some of the questions that people have. Was this a suicide? Was there something else going on? Is there something truly mysterious about his passing, which is what I had picked up on a few days prior, that somebody would pass and it would be a little bit of a mystery around what happened. So let's explore this together. Okay, I'm asking for the right and perfect cards to come in. That was quick. Okay. All right. First card out is the Eight of Wands. Card of messages, things coming quickly, things happening very quickly. Also a card of a conflict that was crossing it. Some sort of altercation, conflict. Now, just so you know, I heard about an alleged situation where the police were involved, but I have not looked deeply at the official narrative of what happened. I just know tangentially what people have said happened. So I may be saying stuff that people already know. Let me know in the comments what you've heard, and if any of this seems to line up with that. Okay. The card up top, crowning everything, is a messenger. This is a messenger about an offer being made. This feels like an offer being made to dealing with an altercation. I do sense possibly what we heard with the police being involved. We have the Page of Pentacles underneath, another messenger. What led up to this? Okay, so starting off with this, that Eight of Wands, something happening very quickly, and then this card of conflict feeling like an altercation. I know the police were called. I don't know much beyond that from the official story, so let me know what you've heard in the comments. This is about an offer being made. To me, it feels like making a plea deal, a bargain, an ultimatum, some type of offer to de-escalate some type of conflict. This is interesting on the background from the past. The Ace of Wands about taking action, and to me, just the feeling of this is something, I just felt like a firearm. With this taking action, it feels like this is kind of taking action, fueling this conflict that is happening, something escalated happening very quickly. This card leading up to it, and it's a messenger telling us there's something that led into this, something important that led up to it. It happened quickly, but it feels like something spurred what happened, like ignited something. But I feel like this is like maybe somebody has a weapon and there's a fight or some sort of quarrel to de-escalate something that gets out of hand very quickly. And like this ultimatum, drop your weapon, I don't know, something like that. And then it ends up here. This is the next phase of this, the Hanged Man, the suspended person in this deck. But that's like being in limbo. I hear the words, there was no way out. There's no way out. That's what I'm hearing, no way out. And having this suspended person, being in limbo, feeling like this is a lose-lose. It's like there's not a good way to end any of this. There's no good way to end this. That's what I feel with this energy. Okay, leading up to the other cards, let's see. Four of Pentacles, card of wanting to hold on to what's yours. Holding on to what's yours, being territorial. This is mine. And this could have been fueling that escalation too. Like, this is mine. I don't want to give this up. I don't want to do that. We have the Two of Wands looking at the future over the environment. It feels like this is expansive, like there needed to be some type of resolution to something. This is what was going on behind the scenes, and that's the Devil card. Obviously, there was something there that was fueling whatever this trouble or altercation was. The result card is the Hermit, the card of introspection, the card of learning, soul growth, and that is the outcome card for this. So that's what I pulled there. This is the burden card. Taking on a responsibility, a burden, something is a challenge or a burden going forward. To me, this feels like there may have been something that was going on that was spurred by something triggered it. And that's what I want to see if I can tap into, was what caused whatever to happen. The next question I asked is kind of a tough question, but I want to know is, did law enforcement do the best that they could with the most integrity that they could under the circumstances? Obviously, this did not end well, but was law enforcement doing the best that they could? And the first card out on that is the Ten of Cups, which is actually a card of success. And it's crossed by the High Priest. Interesting major arcana over that 10. Let me just get a couple more cards out and see if there's anything that comes out. Okay, first card out again, that Ten of Cups, crossed by the High Priest. We have the Five of Swords up top. This is a card of conflict. This is like a battle ending, and sometimes it's like having to pick up the pieces from a battle, and there's really no winners and losers. There's really no winners, I should say. It's kind of like it's over, it happened, and there wasn't a really good outcome. Underneath, we have the Emperor. I feel like they tried, like law enforcement always does, they try to establish, the authority in the room, try to take control of the situation, which is the Emperor's energy. But we're dealing with this Five of Cups. This is a really sad, difficult card emotionally, and moving through this situation into the Star, the card of hope on the outcome. I think they hoped for a better outcome, obviously. We have the Knight of Swords. This is about taking action again. It feels to me as though there's really nothing that this was going to happen the way it did. It feels very fated to me. There's that conflict card again that we saw in the last reading. That's over the situation, over the entire thing, was that conflict, that altercation, whatever happened there. And a Knight of Pentacles is like, this is a slow moving card. It's a messenger though, about what they had hoped was that things would kind of slow down or de-escalate. And that's clearly not what happened, but that's what they were hoping. And then having the Sun is very interesting as a very positive card on the outcome for the law enforcement. So what's interesting about that is that law enforcement, to me, it feels like at least the policemen that were there tried to do their best. That's what this feels like with that Ten of Cups and the Star and the Sun. This was underneath everything, which makes me feel like they were probably up against a losing battle, which is also indicated by this Five of Swords. Five of Swords is kind of like, you gotta pick your battles. You gotta, choose your battles, because this really isn't about winning and losing. It's you just kind of have to move on with that energy. So I don't initially with this sense, any funny business on the part of law enforcement. I think that the cards would have kind of indicated that if there was something that maybe was a little shady by the cops. I mean, we did have the devil card, but I think that was telling us that the situation was such that that energy was present, that it wasn't going to turn out to be good. But the fact that those other positive cards were there on my question about the law enforcement's response tells me that they probably did the best they could in basically a losing situation. All right, so I paused the video and laid out some more cards, and just to meditate on these for a little bit. And this took me in a little different direction than what I was thinking it would. I just wanted to know a little bit about, was there anything funny about, not funny, but any funny business, anything that was a little, not above board that happened that could explain a little bit of what took place? What was the underlying theme kind of that led up to this? And the cards kind of took me in an interesting direction. I'll share those with you, and you can tell me what you think as well. The first card out was the Knight of Pentacles. This is about things moving slowly, wanting to get something going. This card of innocence, childhood innocence, the past, came up crossing this, and it was facing right into the Chariot. Now you have that card of innocence, childhood, reverie, memories, and then you have this kind of harsh Chariot moving forward, bold. And in this particular artwork, you see the Chariot figure is just barging ahead, full bore, and he's pulling that plant up and uprooting it out of the ground. And what I was feeling is that there's something in David's past, something that may have happened to him as a young boy, that may have, I felt like it set him on his trajectory. It altered his timeline. I felt like it moved him and helped him become who he was and who he is. But that Chariot also was very harsh. So he could have had something that maybe, when you're a young child, you're innocent, you're carefree, and then sometimes something tragic will happen in life, or something personal happens that is harsh. And some children get kicked out of the ability to have a normal childhood. And sometimes that happens, and it's tragic when it happens. Every child, as we all say, every child should have a childhood of their dreams where they're safe, protected, loved, and they can grow up being a kid. And some kids don't have that luxury, where trauma or something happens to them and they have to grow up real fast. I kind of feel like, I want to be respectful here, but I feel like something may have happened to him at a young age that kind of kicked his innocence to the curb a little bit. This card is kind of back behind it. And this is the card of something fishy going on. So something maybe not above board happened to him. This card is crowning it. This is the card of taking an opportunity. But I notice in the artwork, this figure is facing into the future, facing into the unknown, facing away. And it's deliberately facing away from this childhood, this innocence. I feel like there was something that was unresolved, that, yes, it did make him who he was. Because even through life's tragedies, life's ups and downs, they shape us. Even the bad things that happen to us as kids are sometimes the things that helped us move ahead in life and grow. So it's kind of a trade-off. But with this card of looking ahead and turning your back, I don't know that he fully, and I'm going to try to be respectful again, I don't know that he fully dealt with whatever this tragedy was that happened to him as a kid. And the thing that propelled him into who he was and made him this famous personality may have also been his undoing, is what I'm feeling. And, we all have skeletons in our closet. We all have things that happened to us as kids that we didn't maybe have control over. And a lot of us, have to go to therapy or counseling to work through those things. And I don't know that he did. Maybe he did. But it feels like there's something from the past that maybe went unanswered and was never dealt with. So that's what I get on that. All right, so I had to pause the video again. I'm asking the question as I was shuffling the cards. I wanted to draw 3 cards and 3 cards only. The first question would be, was this just somebody who wanted out? Just, they came to a place where, maybe he wasn't thinking clearly or just decided, hey, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out. Was it just internally, whatever turmoil was going on, I just want out? Second card is on the question of, was there something else going on that externally may have been involved at play that caused him to do this, that caused that to happen? And then the third option is, what do we need to know about this? So when I laid 3 cards out, and I'll show those to you in a moment, this kind of changes the equation just slightly. Because what I was picking up on was that the police did their job to the best they could in a no-win situation. David, what I was picking up on, had some internal conflict, unresolved childhood trauma or something that could have played a role. So when I asked, was this just him wanting out? Here's the card I got on that. Now, this is a messenger. When I get messenger cards, my pages and my nights, they say there's something more to this. You need to look a little deeper. There's some maybe more information coming in that will help understand this a little better. But having this card, this is a card of rumors and gossip and clearing the clutter from the mind. So I'm like, okay, there's more to be said on that. Whether it was just him just saying, I'm done. The next card is the card on the question of, was something more at play? Was there something else externally that caused this situation? Well, lo and behold, what do we have here? We have a major arcana. Pulling a major arcana on anything gives it a lot more weight. To me, this changes the equation a little bit. This says there was potentially someone, something. Going back to this card for just a moment, this is a card about confusion, having to clear away the clutter of the mind. Could something have been troubling him, confusing him? I'll let you fill in the blank there. But having a major arcana on that, especially this card of conformity. This is the card of, the high priest. This is all about conformity. This is tradition, power structure. These are the rules you play by. This is what you are supposed to be doing. And you can't stray from the rules when the high priest is involved. He sets the tone, he sets the narrative, and he sets the agenda. Did David stray from that rule book a little bit too far? He was asking some pretty outlandish questions and exploring some topics that were taboo. Did he go a little too far? Did he challenge the status quo? Did he challenge the narrative a little too much? Was that part of his undoing? The last question is, what do we need to know about this? The Hermit. This is the card of introspection, going within to seek answers. Not everything is out in the open. Not every answer is plain, available, clear as day. Sometimes there's nuance. Sometimes there are secrets. Sometimes things are hidden, and they're only revealed by going within, seeking the truth, and following the facts. I think there is much more to the story about David Wilcock's passing. That yes, he may have had some trouble in his childhood. He may have had some issues growing up. And maybe those things contributed to his personality and whatever. But he also may have stumbled onto something and may have irritated the status quo a bit. I'll let you decide what you think on that. I think I'll end this here. Again, condolences to his family, to his friends, to his fans, everybody who loved him, those who knew him. And may he rest in peace. And may he see the bigger picture from the other side. And maybe he can still be a bright light shining for those of us, as he left an example for many to follow. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this segment. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate all of you. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.